Hey TMFG community, Carlo Cancino here with John Iaconetti. And in today's Ask TMFG episode, we'll be discussing different forms of credit, more specifically, line of credit versus credit card. So as a reminder, if you do like our videos, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, provide us with a comment, or give us a like. In today's episode of Ask TMFG, we'll be discussing the differences between line of credits and credit cards. There are some minute differences, some that you may not be aware of, give some pros and cons, and just why you should be using one over the other. So John, why don't you get us started?
Yeah. So I guess we'll get us started with the easy one, credit cards. Majority of you probably already own a credit card. Essentially, it's what we also refer to as consumer credit. Some of the pros of it is just ease of use. I mean, pretty easy now, even with TAP, to be able to use for any sort of day-to-day transactions. Another pro of it has become the benefits that come along with a credit card. You can have a travel credit card that will accumulate points. You can have a cashback credit card. There's a lot of different tools that you can utilize through these credit card systems. Another pro of it is just even building credit as well. Beginning to utilize your credit card just to, I guess, prove that you're more credit worthy for future purchases, things like bigger lines of credit or mortgage. But the con to the credit card is going to be typically on the higher side for interest rates, up around 20%, even as high as 30% for some credit cards. So you need to be very cognizant of your spending on these credit cards, being able to pay them off at the end of every month, just to ensure that you don't get into those high interest rate kind of cycle, I guess, of continually paying off interest and not being able to pay off the principal on the card.
I think one of the cons that you mentioned was one of the pros as well. It's ease of use.
Yes.
So
the fact a good point.
that you could just be using it for any purchase, for those who are undisciplined, may find it easy to make purchases, but may not necessarily have the ability to pay it back after every month. So, and that's a good segue into another con. The balances have to be paid by the statement date. And the downside to not paying off the balance by the statement date is that you are charged that high interest. So that's kind of a benefit and a con. Benefit of the credit card is it's a short-term loan, 30 days, where you can make a purchase and not have to pay interest on it. But again, that balance has to be paid after that 30 days or whatever the statement cycle is before they start charging interest on whatever's owing.
Absolutely. And the opposite end of the spectrum there, or the other form of debt that I guess most Canadians tend to have, is a line of credit. Now, there's different types. It could be a secured line of credit, like a home equity line of credit, or unsecured. Typically, when you go on the secured side, when it's secured against an asset, it is going to typically have a lower rate of interest on that loan. Most of the time, this will be used for bigger purchases. So imagine, something happens with the car and you could put it on the line of credit or something along those lines. The pros are much lower interest rates. And then on the con side, it's, again, could be a pro as well, depending on how you see it, but not as easy to be able to access or to be able to use. And typically, you are going to have a higher amount in which you could put on a line of credit as opposed to a credit card.
One of the cons that I can think of right now is the fact that with a line of credit, the interest starts being calculated on the balance immediately. Mm-hmm. It's not like a short-term loan with a credit card where you make the purchase, you have that 30 days to pay off the statement balance. Once you borrow on the line of credit, interest is accumulated or accrued, on the balance until it's paid off.
Yeah, and interest is typically going to be variable there as well. I mean, you may know if you've had a line of credit with the past 12 months of interest rate hikes, those interest payments do tend to add up over time, and your payments or the amount of interest you pay is going to be adjusted accordingly as well. Now, one underutilized strategy that can come from weighing debt between credit cards or lines of credit is debt consolidation. So that is simply amalgamating the debt onto the one source that does have the lowest rate of interest. You'd be surprised how many people can come into a meeting with $20,000 of credit card debt at 20% interest and have a line of credit that can hold that at 5% interest that hasn't been occupied, right? So being able to utilize the right forms of debt and making sure you're paying the least amount of interest is definitely something we recommend you get started with.
I think the final downside that's common for both these credit facilities is the fact that they are revolving.
Yeah.
They can be reused over and over again if it's paid down, but it's not like a loan where it's paid off and you no longer have credit. So it requires a level of discipline to have these credit facilities, because if you borrow on it, it will have to be paid back. Once it's paid back, you could borrow over and over again. So one thing to take into consideration: understand what you're putting on the credit card, needs to be paid back, have some sort of discipline. Otherwise, consolidate onto a line of credit, cut up some of those credit cards that you may have, just so you don't have the option to use them.
So to summarize, credit cards are great because they allow you, ease of use. You're able to accumulate points or other rewards through the credit card, and kind of gives you, like you mentioned, that 30 days free of no interest charges if you are able to pay it off in time, versus a line of credit, which is much better for larger purchases, and typically are going to have those lower rates of interest and could be great for debt consolidation there as well. Well, there you have it. So now you've learned a little bit more about credit cards and line of credit. If you did enjoy our content, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. But until next time, I'm John Yoconetti.
I'm Carlo Cancino.
And this has been
Ask TMFG.